Hey YouTube, it's Young Sam from the Watch This Shit podcast, and today we have Cian reviewing The Boy and the Heron. It's audio only podcast, but don't worry, we have more video podcasts coming up in the future. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that post bell notification so you don't miss another review of ours. And if you're at work, go ahead and pop those earbuds in. And if you're at home, sit back, relax, and enjoy the review.
We want to take a moment to welcome everyone to the Watch This Shit podcast. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. My name is Seneca, the movie professor. With this podcast, we're going to give you the definitive decision on whether you should go view a new movie release or not. It's real easy. If we say, watch this shit, stop what you're doing, and enjoy some good cinema. If we say, don't watch this shit, avoid it as you would running into a burning building to save your books. Or don't. You can do what you want. It may be fun. It may see you with a box of ash and crispy skin. You don't want to listen to us? You put your life in your own hands. Everyone that listens to me should know by now, I'm a purist. I'm not trying to be a snob about it, but I prefer to get as close to the artist's intended vision of a project as possible. For me, the way to go about this is to consume the content in the form that is most like the original version. Further clarification may be needed, so here you go. I'm not watching dubbed anime. It was worse. It was the worst time period when I was younger. The translations were atrocious. Brock talking about those are jelly rolls. Hold on, bitch. It's a rice ball. I'm not about to play with them. Not only that, and possibly more importantly, there is a melodic resonance to hearing the original voice cast. All languages have cadences and nuances that can't be captured once converted to another one. I'm not trying to convert the heathens. I'm just saying, if you invite me over to watch the new episode of Jujutsu Kaisen and you put on the dub, I'm fucking walking out. Needless to say, I watched the movie we will be reviewing today in its intended format. Let's take a look at The Boy and the Heron. Not heron, like a bad pronunciation of heroin, but a damn bird. This would have been a totally different review if it was. Two war-inspired movies back to back. Let's see if I can generate as much hate from our audience as I did on that Godzilla review. Double wink. If you know, you know. Let's get into the story. This is Hayao Miyazaki's semi-autobiographical tale. Of course, it can't be straightforward. We're talking about the master of fantasy. A boy, Mihoto Maki, is devastated when the hospital his mother is recovering in is razed to the ground during the Pacific War. It is implied that this is done by air raid, but not expressly shown. That's one thing I love about this visionary director and writer. He gives you as much information as you need for the story, but also leaves rooms to make you wonder. I wrote in my notes that the hospital was bombed, but that wasn't shown or expressly stated. Motherfuckers just said it's on fire and your mom's still in there. 3 years later, Mahito's father moves him to the boondocks and marries his mother's sister, whom is already with child. That's a lot. Lest anyone forget that Miyazaki-san is one of the most gifted Imagineers of our time, a heron begins stalking the boy and eventually begins to tell him his mother is alive in another world and that if he comes with him, he will be able to see her again. The story sees the boy attempting to navigate the decision to see his lost parent while also being forced to come to terms with the fact that his life cannot go back to what it was before. He has to learn at an early age to deal with grief, acceptance, and possibly hope for the future. Those are ultimately some very deep themes to contend with. I dislike when people say that cartoons are for children. I've been dealing with these arguments my entire life. Yes, while cartoons can be for children, they can just as easily be for adults, or both. Japanese culture has a way of respecting its youth by not talking down to them. In their programming, they deal with all the things that the United States attempts to shield their youth from. I'm not sure which one is better. One of the things I've learned as a parent is that it is easy to mess up a child. You don't even have to try and can do so. Hell, you can be attempting to properly bring them up and your efforts can create a dysfunctional human. I do appreciate that in anime, at least, there are themes that allow for deeper thought. Hopefully, that will lead to deeper thinking adults. This movie gave me a lot of the same vibes as Pan's Labyrinth. It's one of my favorite Guillermo del Toro films and has the same child being displaced and the fantasy elements being a coping mechanism for the child to deal with such a big change in the life that they have known. The similarities got even stronger as I watched. Mahito was bullied at school, and after the fight, he took it to another level. Stone faced, this boy picked up a large rock and bashed himself in the head. This drew blood and left a permanent mark. That type of self doctoring reminded me of when the general personally sewed his mouth closed after being stabbed in it. While a slightly different reasoning to both, they were both done in the act of self preservation. Mahito wanted the injury to be so bad that he wouldn't have to go back to school for quite some time, and it worked tremendously well. That boy was bedridden and seeing visions of what seemed like weeks, which also leads to some of the ambiguity of the narrative. It gives credence to when people look back on this movie in the future and argue if the events of the film were in the boy's mind or if what happened is what we really saw. Even though I love a lot of the actors that make up the dub version of this movie, as I said before, my code won't let me go see that in the theaters, not the English version. They have one of the best voice actors of all time in this thing, Mark Hamill. Still can't support it. The reason being, it's not its original language track. The Japanese cast voice recordings have their heart and soul that is what is trying to be expressed to the audience. I don't believe that can be replicated. I love Bell, Batista, Chan, and especially Hugh, but can't support that big of a change. Maybe when it hits max, I'll put it on with that cast. I'm lying. What I'm going to do is turn it on, and as soon as they begin speaking English, I'm going to switch that shit to the correct format. I can guarantee you. The foreground animations are always stellar in this movie. The detail that goes into making the faces emote or mouse, whatever. That's a weird word. Whenever that, they move to speak or just simply walking around, all of that is beautifully rendered. This is the same as all of the director's other creations. Points will always be rewarded for that level of care. One thing, a negative for sure, that I have noticed in a lot of modern anime theatrical releases is getting lazy when animating distance shots or background characters. There are scenes when people are just slightly off in the background and there are no expressions on their faces. The faces aren't drawn. They're they are at distances that we should be able to see some of the features, maybe not all of them, but to have them blank, the shit looks like a Play-Doh mold of a head. I really started paying attention to this when I saw My Hero Academia Heroes Rising in the theater. There were times that they had characters standing right beside each other, and one would have full details, and the other face would be blank. The Boy and the Heron doesn't go that far, but I definitely wish they had given another pass just to make that pop a little better. It is noticeable from the very first scene. The protagonist runs by people in the street, and they are either blurred or blank. Some of this could be seen as a character panicking and not being able to clearly see what was going on around him. But if that's the case, it doesn't explain doing it later in shots where people were at a talking distance, but we still can't see their face. Complaints aside, the Studio Ghibli boss always shines on weird creature movement and malleable little monsters. The heron is able to transform into a more human form, but the in between transformation are the things that force my eyes open wider. There are times when human teeth can be seen coming out of the bird's beak while it's speaking. That shit is creepy as fuck in a good way. It's one of those nudges that pulls you further from reality into the world that the filmmaker is constructing. And he's a master at doing this little by little. Of course, we also get the obligatory soft creature pile up. He's done this trick in Spirited Away, Ponyo, other films, and of course he does it here as well. The scenes where all the little monsters pile together and start looking like one big blob. Someone is showing how clean the animation can be. That's exactly what it is. Even though the visuals are stunning, I think most people are going to get more out of the story. I feel like this would have been the perfect Mother's Day movie. The characters are even handled with a lot of care. Mojito is unhappy with the fact that he has a stepmother, but he's not a little bitch about it. He just becomes a little more reserved. When she is kidnapped, he doesn't hesitate to rush off to rescue her. He even says at one point, "I'm not doing this for myself. I'm saving her for my dad." Through the course of his adventure, he comes to see that she does indeed care about him and that they can have a happy family together. Simultaneously, he is on a mission with a younger version of one of the 7 old ladies that take care of their property and a time displaced younger version of his mother. In the other world that he travels to, she goes by the name of Lady Hime. She has pyrokinetic powers and works to protect the souls that will be born into the real world. She can even travel via fireplace like the Harry Potter Diagon Alley spell. So much is going on in so many layers, but it is still clear and the goals are understandable. The relationship that he has with his mother's younger self fills that gap of what he missed out on when his mother passed away. My mom should not be listening to this. Like I said, it should have been a good Mother's Day movie. But if she ever listens, Mom, I love you. This made me think about you. All right. The character that I probably liked the least was the Parakeet King. That motherfucker can go to hell. They were working to ensure that all the worlds flourished and could remain intact. And this dumbass comes in knocking shit over without fully understanding what was happening. This caused all of them to have to flee, or else they would have been lost to the void. And the parakeet made it to the regular realm, but I wouldn't have let him come out. He was the whole reason things turned sour. Plus, really, the birds in the world, they were trying to eat people. They were trying to eat everybody. The pelicans and the parakeets were eating souls before they could be born, and they were capturing and trying to eat any humans that came into the realm. Yeah, fuck all of them. They can all go to hell. My final verdict. Watch this shit. For me, it is a second tier Miyazaki film, but his second level is better than most filmmakers' first. If you haven't seen any other Studio Ghibli film, I would say start with Princess Mononoke, Spirit Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Ponyo, then go to this one. If you are already a fan and you have seen most of his work, then you will not be disappointed. Like I said, it won't be your favorite, but it is a great film. The ending was super abrupt. It kind of just went off, but the positives far outweigh the 2 negatives that I could come up with. Matter of fact, I'm going to abruptly end this review. Thank you for listening to another episode of Watch This Shit. You come here for the realest take on new movies. So make sure you follow us so you're not left in the dark on whether you should check out a new movie or not. If you haven't seen this shit yet, what the fuck are you waiting for? We told you what to do. Now it's on you to go do it. Check us out next time when we review the first of our Christmas movies, motherfucking Die Hard. And good day to you.